Welcome back, friends, and if this is your first time here, hi, I'm Betty, and this is the Well-Rounded Workshop. With Mother's Day just around the corner, today's video is a little extra special. I'll be sharing 3 small, easy, beginner-friendly gift ideas for Mother's Day. Simple projects that come from the heart and remind us that the most meaningful gifts are the ones that are made with love. And this video is in honor of 4 incredible women who are no longer with us, but whose love, strength, and influence continue to shape my life every day. My mother, my mother-in-law, my grandmother, and my godmother. Their memories live on in the lessons they taught, the kindness they gave, and the love they left behind. So as we build together today, let's remember and celebrate the women who shaped our lives, inspired our hearts, and showed us the true meaning of unconditional love. So let's get to it. For the first project, I'm making a small book rest out of rough pallet boards, a simple piece that holds your place in your book and has a spot to tuck a few more books as well. My mother was always reading. Every week, she'd head to the library and come home with 5 to 7 books without fail. Books were one of her greatest joys, and I know she would have loved a handmade gift like this. Something practical, personal, and made with care. All right, so let's get started on the first project. It should be simple. There's really only a few pieces. We have the bottom base, we have the back, and then we have the peak. So we're going to start with the bottom base first, 5.5 inches wide by 6 1/4 inches long. I'm going to first take this over to the table saw and cut a nice fresh edge because I noticed there are some nails sticking out here. So let's do that. I'm going to cut it down to 6 1/4 inches and I'll have my base. And always remember, safety first. Okay, so now that I have the base cut, I'm going to start working on the peak. I'm going to start the peak at a 55-degree angle at the top, and the eave I'm going to cut at a 40-degree angle. I'm going to cut that out and see how that looks, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I figured out the angles of my peak. I think it's going to turn out excellent. Each side is about 7 inches, which is great. I just have to get everything sanded down and I can get this assembled. Okay, I'm just going to throw on a disposable respirator here. I'll be sanding with an orbital sander and a little hand sanding. Now that I have my pieces all sanded down, I'm going to work on getting the peak together. So I saw this little trick online where you turn it around, butt it up together, then you take a couple pieces of tape. Supposedly this is supposed to be an easier way to do this, so I'm going to try it. With this new adhesive, I am not used to it. I've never used it before. So I'm a little timid about it. You don't have a lot of time to work with it. Okay, I'm gonna try this. So I'm gonna flip it around. And apparently you just put a little glue on each side, so let me do that. You do not want to touch this. Give it a good spray and you have seconds to get this together, so have to work quick. Okay, so I'm really impressed with that glue. It really holds nice. It gives you time to get a few brad nails in to really secure it, so I'm going to do that. So now that I have all the nails in that, this is nice and secure. I'm going to get this tape off. I love the look of this rough pallet wood. And now I've marked, this is going to be my backboard, so I've marked the middle piece up here. I'm going to put my peak on that middle piece, and then I'm just going to play with it here. I'm going to adjust it so it's the same on both sides roughly, and I'm just going to draw a line. I'm going to take that over to the saw and get it cut out. I just tested my angle and I think I got it good here, so. I got the peak all cut out and it fits perfectly onto the top. And now I'm going to shorten this back piece a bit. I'm thinking I'll go down about 11 inches from the peak. So I'll get that cut and then I will get everything assembled. So I'm just going to get a little glue on this and then I'll brad nail it as well. Okay, so time to get the peak on. I'm going to leave a little overhang in the back, just a little. Get one side done here. First. And I'm going to swing it around. Everything is assembled. I think it's looking sweet. I love the rustic look of the wood. I did get this box a while back from the dollar store. I had used it for something else. But I'm thinking, looking at it here, it would be nice as an embellishment along the front peak. So I would just have to do some cutting and then I'd do this side and then cut out this side. So I'm going to mark it out and see if I can get this cut down, see what it looks like. All right, so I got those pieces cut out and I'm just holding them up there loosely so you can see what it's going to look like. I'm going to take them down and give them another coat of black paint and get them installed. And then I'm going to give this just a coat of natural stain because I like how it looks, and a quick top coat. I don't typically show the finishing part of my projects, but I thought I'd give you a little glimpse this time. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy seeing this part of the process. I started off with a light sanding to clean everything up, and now I'm giving the trim pieces a fresh coat of black paint. I'm going in with a natural stain over the pallet wood, and I think once that top coat goes on, it's really going to come together. And while I'm doing this, it's got me thinking about Mother's Day and how it doesn't always mean the same thing to everyone. For some, it's your mom. For others, it might be a stepmother, a grandmother, an aunt, or just someone who stepped in and showed you love, guidance, and support when you needed it most. Sometimes it's not even about titles. It's about the people who showed up, who listened, who encouraged you, and maybe even taught you a thing or two, whether you realized it at the time or not. Now I'm adding a bird stencil to the back. I want it to have a distressed look, so I'll lightly sand it down, add another coat of natural stain, and wipe it back again to soften everything. Kinda like the people we're celebrating. Often it's the little things that they did that stay with us the most. The small gestures, the quiet encouragement, the everyday moments that didn't seem like much at the time, but end up meaning everything when you look back on them. Everything's dried now, so I'm gluing on the trim pieces to finish it off and pull the whole project together. Alright, well I'm going to finish things up here and you'll see the finished project and the final reveal. Now on to project number 2. For the second project, I'm making a cookbook stand using walnut and birch, giving it a warm, classic look that feels a little extra special. And I have to mention, Chuck surprised me by heading to a local sawmill and coming back with an armload of mixed hardwood pieces for just $15. Now that's the kind of shopping trip that I can get behind. My mother was never much for cookbooks. She mostly just winged it, and somehow everything always turned out delicious. But my mother-in-law was a different story. She practically wore out her company's coming cookbooks over the years. She was always so grateful and genuinely loved every gift she received, and I know a handmade cookbook stand like this would have been perfect for her. So I'm going to make the cookbook stand 9.5 inches wide by 12 inches high. And I got looking at this nice walnut piece and I thought, I'm going to take this, put it right in the middle, 5.5 inches, and then I'll add 2 inches of birch on each side. I think that's going to look nice. And then I'll take this other piece of walnut I have and put the little bottom piece where the cookbook will rest on. Alright, so I got my pieces all cut down, 2-inch sides and the 5.5 in the middle. Now I'm going to get it glued together before I cut it down to the height that I want. And then I'll probably put a round over edge on it, but let's get this glued on with glue here. Lots of glue so this doesn't come apart. You have to work quick when you spray that accelerant spray on it because it is seconds and it dries. This should be all dry. I'm going to get these off and then I'm going to cut it down to the 12 inches and then give it a sand and do a round over on the sides and the top. Okay, so everything is cut to 12 inches. Looks great. There was a little snag in the plan. This piece came off because the glue was not strong enough. So I ended up using pocket hole screws. I'm going to sand them down. They will look absolutely fine. Now I'm going to do the round over. So I got the top and sides all routered and I used the 1/8 classical cove and bead router bit and I love that design. Now I'm just going to get this sanded down before I start the bottom piece where the cookbook will rest on. And I'm not mad at these pocket hole plugs. I really like how this looks with the different kind of woods. Okay, so I got it all sanded down and it's looking absolutely beautiful. And now I'm going to work on the bottom book rest. And that's going to be 9.5 inches wide by 2.25 inches high. So I'm going to go ahead and get this ripped to 2.25 and then we'll get it cut down to 9.5. Okay, so I found this handle in my stash and I thought I would add it to the front of this book rest to keep the cookbook on. I made a couple little marks here for where it needs to go. So I'm going to use my automatic center punch and just mark it here. Hardwood isn't as easy to make these, but there we go. I got my holes marked and now I'm going to drill them out. So I have my holes all drilled out. Now I'm going to glue and pin nail it to the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and get the back support cut down, and I'm going to use a 45-degree angle and a 20-degree angle. I think that will work perfect. And here's my 20-degree angle. We're almost to the finish line. The support is all cut and the angles I chose were perfect. The 45 and the 20 will give me the perfect angle for this cookbook stand. I'm going to go ahead and get that installed, give it a quick top coat, and I'll see you back in the final reveal. For the third project, I'm trying something a little different, kind of a 3D wall art piece. I'm starting with a chunky 8x10 wood frame and a template of a woman sitting beside a tree, hand outstretched, reading a book. I'll be cutting that out on the scroll saw, layering it over the sheet music of the old rugged cross, and using a tiny little Bible as the finishing touch. I'm not exactly sure how it's all going to come together, but that's half the adventure around here. Now, my grandmother and my godmother were both deeply rooted in their faith, and they never went anywhere without their rosaries. And I think they would have truly loved receiving a gift like this. Something meaningful, personal, and centered around what mattered to them most. So the first step on that project is to get my little figures cut out. So I'm just going to trace these. Okay, great. So I'm going to get these over to the scroll saw and get those cut out. All right, so I got my pieces all cut and sanded, and I think they turned out just sweet. That's going to look really cute. And now I think what I'm going to do is I have a couple pieces of cardboard I'm going to use for behind this sheet music of the old rugged cross. Just gives it a little stability. So I'm going to get that attached to this frame. But I also think I'm going to paint the frame white and get it distressed. So I'll get working on that, and I'll see you back in a minute. This last project is a little different. It's more about meaning than anything else. And I think that's the nice thing about handmade gifts. They don't have to be perfect, they just have to be personal. Maybe it's a little sentimental, but I think those are the pieces that end up meaning the most. When you make something yourself, you get to think about the person the whole time. What they loved, what mattered to them, the little details that made them who they were. And sometimes those details aren't big or flashy. They're the quiet things. A song they loved, a place they felt peaceful. That's kind of what I was thinking about while putting this one together, and also hoping it all comes together the way it looks in my head. Because let's be honest, not every vision survives the workshop, but that's part of it. It's not about getting everything exactly right, it's about creating something that feels right. Something that when you look at it brings back a memory, or just makes you pause for a second. So while I'm finishing this up, adding the final touches and bringing everything together, it's really about honoring that feeling more than anything else. And sometimes that's all a gift needs to do. All right, so I got my frame all painted and distressed. I think it looks great. I ended up stealing a piece of glass from an 8x10 dollar store frame that I had that I'm going to pop right in the back, and it fits really pretty good. And so now I'm going to pop in my old rugged cross music sheet, put that in, and I have cut out 2 pieces of cardboard just to kind of give it an extra little support for the back. Now hopefully this is going to work, because I was trying to figure out how I was going to get this back on, and I use these carpet tacks. I'm going to try it anyway, see if I can get this to stay into place. It's not like I'm going to need a whole lot of these. I do want to be careful because I don't want to break the glass either. So I kind of just bent it down, kind of like you see on the back of frames. I have a little metal piece. I think that'll work. I'm just going to get my last one in. Now when I turn it over, I did go ahead and I stained my lady and the tree. So I'm going to go ahead and come up with a little block that I can put underneath, just to kind of make it that 3D wall art that I was telling you about. And then I'm going to add the little Bible. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to see you back in the final reveal. And here they are, 3 pretty simple Mother's Day gift ideas, each one made with love and a little meaning behind them. The rustic bookrest turned out so cute. I used a natural stain, added a little bird stencil on the back, a black trim detail on the front peak for an extra touch, and finished it with a quick top coat. I know my mother would have loved this one. Then we have the cookbook stand. I really love how the walnut and birch look together, so I left it natural and just added a top coat to bring out the wood. I also added a handle on the front to help hold the book in place. And I know my mother-in-law would have proudly displayed this in her kitchen. And lastly, the 3D wall art. I painted the frame white, then sanded it back to give it a distressed look. I love the old rugged cross music sheet in the background. I stained the woman and the tree cut out, then glued everything into place. And I know my grandmother and my godmother would have loved this piece. I really hope these projects will inspire you to make something special to honor a mother in your life. Well, that's a wrap on my 3 Mother's Day gift ideas. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and perhaps sharing it with a friend who might enjoy it. Until then, let your books shape your mind, let your meals nourish your body, and let your faith guide your soul. And remember, moms don't need grand gestures, and they don't ask for the world. Just a little love from the heart, a little effort, and maybe a breakfast they didn't have to cook. Plus, proof they raised you right. And out of respect for all the mothers out there, for Mother's Day, I decided to leave out my usual cheeky innuendos at the end. And to all my mothers, I love you and miss you. Bye for now.